And welcome to Belle with Amanda Monroe. I am your host, Amanda Monroe, and I am so excited today to welcome Abbi to Belle. So, Abbi, welcome, and thank you for hopping on with me.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So, for the people who are watching, introduce yourself. Kind of tell us like your wrestling kind of background a little bit, and how you've been involved with wrestling.
Yeah. So anyone who's watching that is familiar with Friends of the Squared Circle, which my understanding is a kind of a sister-brother podcast to yours.
Yep.
I've been on there quite a few times, usually talking about first wrestling. Sometimes I've done some things fun, making like a dream wrestling roster with my arch nemesis, Lupe. Anyone who watches Cal's podcast knows about me and Lupe. But I've been a wrestling fan since, as far as I can remember, 2-3 years old. Got really into it probably early to mid 2000s. Took a little break, got into it again in about 2014, 2015-ish when the Four Horsewomen of NXT were really coming up. They brought me back into it. And then I discovered indie wrestling in about 2017, 2018-ish. So I've been going to a lot of shows. I do a lot of first wrestling shows in Minneapolis. And yeah, I'm just kind of a fan. Like I've also been a writer, so I've written lots of things for a former podcast I was a part of, news articles, analyzing different parts of history, and specifically women's wrestling. That's kind of my focus. Anyone who knows me knows that I did an article for Trish Stratus last year. So that was really fun. That was kind of a dream come true. I met her at Comic-Con in the Twin Cities, told her I was a writer, and then she let me write an article for her website, which was amazing. But yeah, so I'm basically just a fan, but I've kind of dug my feet into a little things here and there to be kind of a part of the product.
Exactly. I feel like you've kind of gotten your hands in a lot of different places, which is really great. Because that, you do get to take that perspective of a fan, and just kind of being on the inside, as I don't like saying outsider because that probably sounds weird. But as a fan, I think it's really important to have fans in the product because, that's your perspective, which is an amazing, perspective to have, because I really think the wrestlers learn from that also. I have to ask, what was Trish Stratus like? I have this idea in my head of kind of like her personality and what she's like.
She was like, I'm not even exaggerating, probably the nicest person I've ever met. Very warm, very open. She had such a long line of people waiting to meet her, but she took her time with every single person, myself included, calling them by name, having a conversation. It wasn't, I feel some wrestlers, I'm not going to like name names and call them out, but I feel some wrestlers are very much at signings like, okay, what's your name? Sign it. Here you go. Picture, on you go. Where she actually took the time to like get to know you and acted like she cared that you were here to see her and you're paying money standing in line to see her. So it was very incredible. I love her. She's been my favorite for as long as I've been watching wrestling. So it was a really cool experience.
That's so awesome, because I mean, you hear a lot of good experiences, but also a lot of bad experiences with some wrestlers. So just knowing that her personality is as gorgeous as she is, like, just makes me so happy. So I know you said you've been watching wrestling since you've been about 2 or 3 years old. Mm-hmm. Is there one specific match that you can remember watching kind of in those early years that got you hooked on everything?
So actually, it's funny because I feel when I was younger, I really wasn't paying attention to the wrestling part. Mm-hmm. I was all about, what are they wearing? Oh, I love their music. Like I loved that aspect of it, kind of like the showmanship. But I do remember, this is when I got a little bit older, but my very first ever favorite match was Triple H versus The Undertaker in their Hell in a Cell match at WrestleMania. Mm-hmm. I think it was their second WrestleMania match that was the Hell in a Cell one. But I remember, we illegally recorded it on DirecTV. And so I watched that match so many times, like back and forth. And then we also had, I had a DVD of WrestleMania 20, which was 2004. And I don't remember why we had that specific one on DVD. We didn't have any other ones on DVD, but we had one. And I watched that so much. All the matches. I mean, one that sticks out is Christian versus Chris Jericho. And the reason I put it out was because Trish Stratus was involved and she turned on Chris Jericho to date Christian. And I actually wrote about that in my article for her, however many years later. Last year I did this. So it was kind of like a full circle moment because I remember watching that as a kid all the time. And I'm like, I still love Trish. Like now I'm just a Christian fan instead of Chris Jericho. Like I'm going to do whatever he wants to do. And so it's just kind of cool to be able to write about that later. But I would say any of those, obviously later matches, Trish and Mickey was a big one at WrestleMania. Yeah, any of those, a lot of Trish's WrestleMania matches. Because I said I loved her. I still love her. So I watched pretty much everything she did.
Yeah, it's funny that you had mentioned Mickie James. I had met Mickie James at MAW last year. Same thing, just a great person. Got to watch me ref, gave me some critiquing on it, which was fantastic. It's one of those you walk away and you're just kind of like floating on air because it's like they are as cool as, you know, you thought they were in your head.
Like, did that just happen?
Exactly. Yep. And it's like you can walk away really cool, but your brain is just losing it.
Yeah.
So is it safe to say that Trish has always been your favorite female wrestler?
Absolutely. Yep. She's always been my favorite. And then after that, Sasha Banks in that Four Horsewomen era I was talking about.
Yep.
She kind of brought me back into wrestling. So she's up there for me too. You know, the Mercedes, I think she's at 13 belts now, 12, 13.
12 or 13.
Insane. But she kind of came up too to be one of my favorites as well. I also love Victoria. I've met her a few times and she's always been just the sweetest person. A lot of fun to talk to as well. I'm also a big Taya Valkyrie fan. I also had a moment, I met her up in Duluth. She did a show. That's where I'm originally from. And I met her. And it was kind of what you're describing where you walk away and you're like, did that happen? And that's kind of how I felt with her at the time too. So yeah, it's just, I love when wrestlers that you love and like, I don't want to say idolize, it's kind of a weird word, but you grow up loving and you know, you're just a fan of them and they end up being like as cool as you picture them to be in your mind.
Yeah, and one of the things I think has been so great, especially about Trish, is watching from when she first started and even to now her growth. And I feel like you could say that about a lot of female wrestlers because, you know, and I'm sure you know too, like when we first started watching it, like women didn't get a big stage. You know, how do you feel about kind of the growth that has happened with the women's division in the past, you know, even 15 years?
I love it. I think it's amazing. Because I mean, like you said, we've been watching since, you know, early mid 2000s when, you were lucky to get one match. And usually that one match was, oh, you guys are going to be in, what do they call it? Like the mud matches where they would roll around in mud, or you're going to be in a bra and panties match, or you're going to be in this. And it hurt because you could tell some of these women, especially Trish, especially Lita, Victoria, they had the wrestling ability and they had the experience. They knew what they were doing, but they just weren't allowed to. So I absolutely love where the division has gone and how much it has changed. And I especially love how they're giving women like Trish a chance to come back and be like, show us what you've had this whole time that we completely overlooked the first time because you deserve it.
Yeah, 100%. Is there, and I know prior to the podcast recording, we were talking a little bit about, you know, right now, kind of what you watch is a little bit of this, a little bit of that kind of in the background. Is there any current female wrestlers that have really caught your eye as far as talent? And I know there could be a few.
Yeah. Toni Storm, 100%.
Oh, yes.
I love what she's doing over in AEW. Amazing. The timeless Toni gimmick. When she left and came back as her old gimmick, and then switched
Mhm.
up again and became timeless. I thought that was just amazing. I love her.
That was one of those where, like, when it started, I wasn't sure how it was gonna work. Like, it felt weird, and it didn't take long before I'm like, "This is genius.
Yes. And I thought
This
that
is great."
I mean, I think she has the best gimmick across all companies, across all genders, everything. I think she's got it down. We don't see people running with gimmicks anymore, I feel.
I
Um,
agree.
so the fact that she's been able to do this and be so good at it, it's just so cool. So
Mhm.
she's probably my one right now. I also love Bianca Belair. I mean, I can't wait for her to come back. I'm a huge Bianca fan.
Yes.
Um, I think Tiffany Stratton's been doing good too. I'm a little biased just because hometown,
Same,
home state, you know.
same.
Yeah, but I think she's doing wonderful along with that same token, Julia Hart with the, you know,
Yes.
kind of gothic gimmick with her and Sky Blue and can't remember a girl's name. Thea, I think, the little spider girl that's been hanging out with them too.
Oh, Thekla.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, I think there's a lot of really great up and coming women's stars. Queen Amanada is another one in AEW. Um,
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of them, and I think that the division's going in another really great place.
Yeah, I agree, and I feel like, and maybe disagree on this with me on this, but I feel like NXT kind of was, I don't want to necessarily say the catalyst, but I can't think of a better word. But it was NXT that really started saying, hey, these women are actually really talented and we need to push them for what they can do.
100%. I mean, I don't think we talked about it on this podcast, but possibly before.
Mhm.
I kind of stopped watching wrestling for a little bit in probably like 2010, 2011-ish for a couple years. And it was the Four Horsewomen of NXT that brought me back to it. My dad was watching NXT one day, and I think it was Sasha versus Charlotte versus Becky versus, it wasn't Bailey. I think it might have been Alexa Bliss or somebody, but it was
Okay.
some kind of four-way match on NXT. And I was like, wow. And Sasha Banks caught my eye for sure out of those women. All of them did, but Sasha was kind of the one I latched onto.
Yep.
And I started watching wrestling again because of the women of NXT. And I was like, wow, there's a ton of them here. And then Asuka
Mm-hmm.
came up and they brought in, you know, I still call her Io Shirai. She's Io Sky now. But
Yep.
all of
My
those
husband's
girls,
favorite.
Kairi Sane. Yeah.
Yes.
I totally agree with that. It was NXT that kind of, I mean, I got to give props to TNA though, too, because TNA was
Yes.
doing that before NXT was,
Yes.
you know, with Gail Kim, Awesome Kong, beautiful people. But NXT is really what kind of put the majority of wrestling fans back onto women's wrestling again, I would say. That black and gold era.
Yes. And that was when I first became a fan of well, I mean, I feel biased because when you're talking about Julia Hart, Shayna
Mm-hmm.
Baszler,
Mm-hmm.
uh, from where I live now, from Sioux Falls, South Dakota,
Yep.
always been a huge fan of hers since she started out in NXT. So that's been fun to see. I mean, even Kiana James from Sioux City, Iowa, literally just like down the interstate from me.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool to see these women coming up from like our area too.
Yep.
I think the Midwest has a lot of hidden female talent. I know you had said, you'd gone to First. Is
Mm-hmm.
there any talent on the indies right now that you feel like they need to be signed?
High on from Texas. She was just first VFW champion. She lost at MOA, but she needs to be signed like immediately. That woman is incredible. She's talented. She's beautiful. She can get the crowd under her. Like, just everything about her right now is a star. And I am shocked that AEW or NXT or anybody haven't picked her up yet, because I mean, I think she's out of Booker T's school. I think that's where she trained, but
Mm-hmm.
she's absolutely incredible. So that's, yeah, absolutely high on.
Yeah, that's awesome. So kind of looking forward, I know we talked about, who we would want to have signed, who not. Anybody, I guess, in particular that you've seen like at First, other than who you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
um, anybody else that you can think of? I
Yeah.
always have ideas in my head because it's like this person and this person and this person.
I talk about him a lot. He's a good friend of mine, Devon Monroe.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Devon Monroe needs a contract yesterday.
Yes.
He's like I said, I love him to death. He's actually a good friend of mine, and he deserves that too. And he has been branching out. Actually, I think it was last weekend, or possibly it was this weekend. He had a match in Canada, and Mercedes Moné was on the card. And I said, Devon, you need to talk to Mercedes, and we need to make this happen.
Yes. So, I saw Devon for the first time at a Black Wrestlers Matter show a few years back. Just blown away.
Yep.
Just completely blown away.
He's incredible.
Just the talent that he has. And I absolutely love getting to see like the people that I know being on the card with some of these really big names.
Yep.
Like I know, for example, Sierra, I will probably end up mentioning her on every single podcast. She has a match next weekend, I believe, with Isla Dawn.
Yep.
I mean, I get so psyched and happy.
It's so
about
cool.
Just seeing these women have these opportunities that I don't know if they would have gotten, 5-10 years ago.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's amazing. Just getting to see the talent that or you've talked to personally.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing? I know you've been to quite a few indie shows. What's your favorite thing about the indie shows?
I just love the vibe of them. So I'll give specific examples. I love the 21 plus shows because the crowd is just so fun. Like they're so lively, and it's fun getting to have those like interactions with the wrestlers at kind of like a more personal level. Like they hear you when you chant something at them, and they're going to reply, and it's going to be some smart ass reply, but they're going to reply. Yes. A really good example of this I have is I was at a show this summer, and I was with my dad and my brother. It was an all ages show, and Darren Corbin was in the ring. I know Darren Corbin very well. Darren Corbin knows me very well. Darren Corbin follows my social media, and anyone who follows me, which you can follow me at my little link there. Swerve Strickland is my boy. That's my number one. He's my boy. Love him to death. And Darren had a match, and of course, I'm yelling at him. He's Darren Corbin. Of course. And he stops and he looks at me and he goes, I could beat Swerve too. And I go, okay, we're over now. And then after the match, I talked to him, and he's like, and being that I love Swerve, I hate Hangman Page, which I know is very controversial, but I got to stick to my point. And so I was talking to Corbin, and I was like, what the hell was that? Like, you couldn't beat Swerve. And he goes, I really wanted to make you mad. And if I could have done a buckshot lariat, I would have, just to make you mad. And I was like, of course. So just the things like that, like if you go to enough shows, the wrestlers kind of know you and know your interests, and it just makes it that much more fun to go.
Yeah. Have you had any experiences backstage at any of the wrestling shows?
No. So I'll hang out with the wrestlers like after the shows if there's like an after party or something. But I like to keep that line. I am a fan. Like you guys are my friends too, but at the show, I'm a fan. Yeah. I don't want any special treatment. I don't want any of that. After the show, we'll get some drinks together. Sure, absolutely, because you're not working anymore. And that's kind of how I see it. When you're in the ring, that's your job. That's you working. I'm not going to pretend like I know you and that we hang out and ask for like special treatment or whatever. It's a very hard line for me.
Yeah. No, and I appreciate that. And I think seeing that actually brings up kind of another question in my head, because I don't know if you saw, I think it was a month ago in Australia with WWE, some of the wrestlers were getting like swarmed by fans. Like Rhea was one of them. And just all these fans swarming her. And I feel like, guys, obviously, yes, you don't want to bother them, but I feel like you have to have an even bigger bubble when it comes to the female fans or the
Absolutely.
female wrestlers.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I definitely appreciate, you and so many other fans have that kind of boundary too, where it's like, okay, you can see them after the show, but during the show that's their job and they're trying to work. So yeah, that line is definitely
And I would say
appreciated.
it's kind of along the same lines of, I got mad at some fans at I think this was a Mall America show, actually. It might have been a show before that. But there was one particular fan who kept yelling out the wrestlers' real names during their match.
Oh.
And I just, it took everything in me to hold back and not go find who this person was, because it's so disrespectful for me, because you don't know them on that level. And even if you did, you don't do that when they're in the ring and they're a wrestler at that moment.
Exactly.
And I would say even after the show, even if you know them, there's got to be an established relationship there. Like, hey, you can call me this name, after the show if we're hanging out. But unless you get that, okay, I'm going to call you whatever your name gets called out on when you're walking to the ring, because that's what I'm told to do.
Admittedly, even like as somebody who is backstage, I still call people their ring names.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of becomes habit. Hence the reason why when I was starting off, it's like, Amanda, that's going to be my first name, whether I'm in the ring or not.
Yeah.
So that courtesy is just something that's definitely appreciated. So kind of last question that I'm thinking of. What do you see, I would say, the next 10 years from these women's divisions? I feel like that could be a really hard question to answer.
It
but
is
I just want to get your thoughts.
Because I feel we'll be in a really good spot at some points. And then like a month later, I'm like, wait, what happened to the progress? And let me expand on that. So the first women's evolution took place in 2018, the all women's pay-per-view, 2018. We didn't have another one until 2025.
Agreed.
Why?
Agreed.
Why is it not a yearly thing coming up? So, at one point, we are in a good spot in the fact that there even is an all women's pay-per-view. And, we are having more than one women's match of pay-per-view, depending on what's going on. We do have more than one women's storyline. But why is it taking 7 years for another all women's pay-per-view to happen?
100%.
My hope in 10 years is that the Evolution pay-per-view, maybe even another all women's pay-per-view, who knows, can be like a yearly thing, and we're not questioning every year whether it's going to happen. Hopefully the Rumble's still going on. Hopefully the Money in the Bank is still happening. Hopefully all those things are happening for our women. But it's really hard to say because it feels like it's hot and cold. And that's no fault of the women themselves. No fault at all. Right. They're doing what's asked of them. They're working their butts off. It's management at both companies. They'll be doing okay for a little bit, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait, why do we just have one women's match at 8:30 when the show ends at 9? Yeah. It's a really hard question. I would hope that everything would stay steady and kind of keep going in the right direction. But it's really up to management. And I think the fans also have a duty to, keep tweeting, keep posting, keep tagging these companies to book women, and keep booking women and keep on it, and not just, okay, well, this month we're really going to focus on the women, and then we're just going to focus on everything else again after that. No, we got to keep at it and keep under their toes, keep pushing them to make the women be important on their show, because they are important.
Yeah, exactly. Love it. So just to kind of wrap things up a little bit, this is your time to plug whatever you want, any of your social media accounts, anything like that, anything you have coming up. The time is yours.
Perfect. So I do have something really special coming up. I can't talk about it yet, but it's very, very exciting. So probably in the next month or so, you'll find out what it is. But if you go to my Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, it's all at Abbi Mcmillen, which is on the screen. If you do follow me, just beware. I also have a lot of sports posts. So you're going to see me complain about the Vikings and the Timberwolves as well as wrestling stuff. So,
Hey.
yeah. So I'm kind of like everywhere that I'm passionate about. Twitter is where I'm most active. I do also have Instagram. I do also have Facebook. Feel free to follow me on those if you'd like. But Twitter is where I'm most active, and that's where you'll find information about my new project. And you can also find my article that I wrote for Trish Stratus last year. It's pinned on my Twitter. So if you're interested in looking at that, seeing kind of what that's like, feel free. But yeah, it's really just kind of the thing that I have coming up that will be announced soon. And then hopefully some more things after that will start rolling around. I'm trying to get into writing again, but for right now, I'm just kind of like the angry keyboard warrior for wrestling and everything else.
No, that's awesome. Abbi, thank you so much for being on the podcast with me. Again, if you are interested in more Belle to Belle, I am Belle T.O. Belle on Facebook. Also, you can find me on YouTube at Belle to Belle with Amanda Monroe. And again, Abbi, thank you so much.
Thanks
and
for having
thank you,
me.
everybody. Absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we will see you again very soon.